girls of Methodist College. It's an absolute privilege and an honor to be here with my wife. You've heard from the wiser half of our family, and I shall try to follow. When I was growing up, and especially at Wesley College at Prize Givings, normally a chief guest or a couple, they had a lot of gray hairs, they were older, they had wisdom, they had maturity. And when I heard that we were invited, I thought it was a mistake. I thought there was some sort of typing error. And so I tried to preserve as many gray hairs as I can. My wife, unfortunately, doesn't have any gray hairs, but we hope that we'll be able to share some wisdom here. But we're so honored and privileged to be here. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. So as my wife spoke about going beyond the classroom, I want to talk about going beyond the parameters of your self-ambition. Many times we are so engrossed with what we want to accomplish, who we want to be, the kind of career we want to have, the kind of life, the family that we want. But I believe that the foundations of our schools, both here at Methodist College and Wesley College, was to embody young men and women who go beyond those parameters, beyond self, and be a light unto the nation. And that's what you're here for. So when we're living beyond the parameters of our selfish ambition, we have the capacity to start looking outside and seeing that our nation is hurting. Our children are hurting. UNICEF organization, they just said that 2.9 million Sri Lankan children are facing malnutrition right now. Our economy is bankrupt. We're in a devastated situation. Yes, it looks like there's a lot of doom and gloom, but the good news is there are incredibly capable, intelligent young men and women in this nation who are ready to take on those challenges, look them right in the eye, and refuse to give up, but transform this nation and hand over this nation to our children and their children better than what we've received it. It seems impossible, but I've had the privilege of working with leaders here at Methodist College for almost 15 years. And I have seen the talent here. First of all, Methodist girls can sing better than any school that I've been to across the world. It's angelic, but it's not just the singing, the leadership, the creativity, the intelligence, the capacity. You are destined to be some of our nation's greatest hope. And so, if you as a generation start thinking beyond yourself and start looking at solutions for the nation, solutions for those who are hurting and the devastating things that you have inherited, you have the capacity to bring about that change. In 1884, in Chicago, they invented the elevator. And until then, there was no such thing as the Chicago skyline. 10 stories of buildings were the highest you could go. And in fact, if you owned the 10th story, it was the cheapest rent because you had to haul all your stuff up there, you had to walk up the steps. It was a waste of time. Nobody wanted the 10th floor. But with the advent of the elevator, all of a sudden, emerged the skyline of Chicago and New York and the rest of the world. And the floors and the stories right above were the most expensive because it showed the glory of the city. We may be in a country where people say, well, there is no hope. It's not going to work. Things are not going to change. But you can be the generation that becomes the elevator to the nation, that raises our value, raises our standard. When people saw there was no hope, once there was no value, but you bring in value as a generation because you're living outside your own ambition, but you're living for something greater, to be that generation. I know there's been a mass exodus in our country. Just last year alone, some stats say millions have left, maybe at least 300,000 for work. And I don't believe that God takes from the poor and gives the rich. I believe that we have a purpose. And yes, we have to go outside for education maybe, for exposure, for experiences, but we come back and we build this country. Even as you're thinking of your future, yes, if you have opportunities to go and you want to go, but come back. We have to build this nation. If the cream of the crop in every school and every institute starts leaving, how are we going to take on the challenges? How are we going to fight for justice and equality? How are we going to bring about excellence and development in this country? So I want to leave that in your heart. This is your country. You're born here for a purpose, and I believe that you can bring about significant change. I also believe that this is our Sri Lanka's resurgence. And the X factor for Sri Lanka's resurgence is going to be our women in this nation. Your great-grandmothers received the franchise to vote. Your grandmothers started breaking through in education. Your mother's generation started breaking to the corporate world and institutions. But your generation has the potential to take your place as equal leaders in every strata of society. From politics and governments, to innovation, to the STEM subjects, to business and entrepreneurship, whatever it is, not just a few names that we mentioned, but to be truly equal or even more, to serve at that level. Sri Lanka for so long has almost had paralysis, where we've been fighting with just one hand. But what if a new generation of women have that inspiration and empowerment and that opportunity, and you are that generation? You were not just born to excel in the classroom and have a heyday in school. You were born to transform a nation. Your generation of women are our nation's best hope, and we wish you very well. I pray that your generation will outlive and outlast racism and prejudice, corruption and incompetence, poverty and inequality, and mediocrity. That you will not hand those realities to your children. That you would outlive it, you would transform it. And because of you, the world will say, that generation transformed this beautiful island. And that we will be an inspiration for generations to come, even unto other nations, because you stood up. You're here because you have excelled. You're here because there's something about you of resilience, intellect, and discipline. Now take that, not just for your scores and for your results, not just for your university degree, but to be the innovators of our nation, the leading scientists and engineers, the leading experts on artificial intelligence, the leading experts on constitutional reform, good governance, reconciliation, and justice. May you be the generation that we celebrate for eternity, saying they made a difference. So thank you, and God bless you. I believe your generation will make us proud. And we're proud of you already, but we know that the best is yet to come. Thank you.